All right, it's Monday and we're live, so thanks very much for joining everyone. It's Monday and it's episode 64 live on YouTube and live, of course, on Facebook as well. Thanks so much for joining in. I'm always enjoying Mondays because it's just such a great start to, it's basically a good display of a lot of the things I talk about. And a lot of things I talk about when it comes to building a startup is also building a whole world around you that you enjoy. Let's not separate work and how you feel about life and you know, your leisure time. Let's create a world where it's all kind of working together in synergy. And the whole part of building my own business to start with was about creating a world that I'm enjoying. And so many people I know are like, oh, it's Monday, I've got to go to work and that kind of bullshit. And it's so much better to say, what should Monday look like? In fact, what should any day look like? Because in fact, they should all be great fun. So that's the key thing. I'm just going to set up here to make sure we've got live on all the platforms, and we will go. So yeah, the whole point here is to make sure I have a Monday I enjoy. And what I love is this idea of having a Monday by design. So I'm looking forward to it even during my weekend because it's doing exactly what I want to do. And part of that is basically saying, do you know what I want to do? I want to go live, I want to talk, I want to interact with people, I want to do a Q&A, and that just works for me. So that's why I'm doing it. Thanks so much to everyone who's joining in. And like I say, we're here on Facebook and on YouTube now. A couple of notices. The first one is about Thursdays. So Thursday Q&A, about probably best part of a year ago, we did a, it was 64 episodes ago, we started the Startup Business Q&A. We've done it every single week. And after about 10 episodes, it was clear there were loads of sales related questions. So I thought, why don't we create a sales Q&A on a Thursday? So currently we run a Thursday Q&A. That's going to stop. We're going to try an experiment. So I'm going to see there's a few things I want to check, but basically I'm going to do an experiment whereby we don't do that Q&A on a Thursday, and all questions are all in on Monday instead. So this will be like a weekly thing, and because they're going to use some other projects I'm going to do instead. So rather than having two Q&As like that, we'll have one. It'll be the Startup Business Q&A with Richard Moore, and it's available, as I say, it streams on YouTube now as well as Facebook on the fan page, but also is over on my website. So my website went live last week is therichardmoore.com, and in there's podcasts. Those podcasts, because they've been asked for by so many of you, is a audio version of this very stream, so you can download or listen to, you know, stream it off SoundCloud or something when you're brushing your teeth, in the car, on the bus, whatever it might be. So that's first notice. The second one is a big thank you to everyone jumping all over the beta program for Monetize You. If you've not been in orbit with me for long, or you've missed it, the point of Monetize You is I want to have this antidote to gurus who try and sell you courses to make money for yourself, but require you to learn a whole new skill. So the idea is it leverages knowledge you already have. It's a very simple 7-step process. The responses are, I mean, this is why I do this stuff. The responses blow me away, because it's great when when you sell things, when you build a business, when you get compliments, things like that. But when you get people telling you that their perspective's changing, that they're making money now, that they are seeing huge shifts in the way they are able to interact with people, and that they had that thing all along they could use, but now they've been enabled. That's the whole point of Monetize You, is it's an enabler. It's about 2.5 hours of content, and it shows you how to make income off the off the knowledge you already have. And I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled that it's meeting with so much approval. And I just want to say thanks to everyone who's jumped on it. Very soon, as in this week, we plan to have it rolled out on the website as well. And then you can jump in on it, but for now it's kind of closed. I've invited some people to jump in as beta testers, and 5 lucky winners last week jumped on the free. I gave away free places for 5 people. I think they went in within about 2 minutes. It was very nice to see people jumping on that too. But let's get on with why we're here. So moving forward, if you have sales questions, don't save them for Thursday. That's going to be rolled out on Mondays as well. If you have sales questions here, stick them in the comments. But otherwise, let's get started. So first one here is from Willie Wolf. What if I notice that the people I want to work with are a bit lousy in mindset, but actually very talented in business? How do I activate the entrepreneur spirit in people? So this is difficult to answer for a couple of reasons, but mostly because I don't know what the how it's actually working. It could be that you're based in, you know, Germany and your colleague is in LA and you don't ever meet each other. You just kind of work, you know, he's like your VA or something. Or it could be that you're actually in the same office as each other. So that is different dynamics to think about here. But if someone's lazy in mindset, but amazing at business, job one, because there are two approaches here. Job one is to look at yourself first. Are they lazy in, or rather your word, lousy in mindset because of you? Okay, so first job is to look at it yourself. So if they're great at business, but they are lousy in mindset, that suggests that they are not feeling the impetus or the inspiration to jump on this. People who run through walls for you, the guys who do it for free, the ones who want to be in your space and help you, and they give you these great, there's people all over the world who have wonderful skills. If it's web development, if it's working with Twitter, if it's Instagram, if it's marketing strategy, whatever. There's people all over the world that you can work with. The ones who haven't got a lousy mindset are the ones who are doing it because they love it. And that may well be because of you inspiring them to kind of, you know, bring the best out of themselves. What it requires you to do is get really close to that person and say, do you know what? How's it going? How's it going? You know, are you loving this? Do you enjoy it? Is this the kind of thing you want to do? Because so many times people go, well, I can do that. I can help you in that part of your business, but it's not really what my passion is. I had someone recently, who I work with, who was like this, and he's like, I like doing this. I can do this thing really well, and I needed help with that. And it's like, do you know what? Don't worry about it actually, because that's your thing, and I'm not going to get the best of you from that for that, because it's not where you're focused. Let's just leave you to crack on with your thing. So that's the other side. It could well be that it's just not what they're into. Sure, they might be great at business. I'm probably great at loads of things, but not necessarily things I'm into. So what you got to think to yourself is, firstly, how can I inspire that person? Am I really giving them the best, you know, playground for them to go play and really be creative or be talented in business? Or am I being restrictive? Am I micromanaging them too much? Am I being a bit of a dick to them? Am I not giving him the audience at the top table he needs, for instance? It could well be something like that. Activating the entrepreneurial spirit, ultimately, if it does come down to you, what it means is you need to spend more time with that person. And I really mean time, like real time with them. Not you check in every day, oh, but I send an email, we have a quick call every day to talk about business. No, proper time, relationships, right? Connections. People who work with me, I go beyond, hi, I need this from you today. Sure, occasionally that's how it works because of time and I need to be curt. But in the main, it's more me saying, let's just catch up, be a decent bloke, help them out, give them some value. Then they kind of like, you fall in step with each other and you're on the same wavelength. Sitting atop of that is a business relationship. Far better to have a great connection underneath. So look at that. Maybe the connection's not great, because I have people who work with me and they, as I say, they run through walls because they love the thing we're doing. They're really into the vision, and that leverages what they're good at. Okay, so it has to be inspiration first and then leveraging their talent. But it might just be that, yeah, they're good at it, they just don't care that much. But ask yourself first, is it me? Am I really giving them time? When was the last time you spoke to them? Give them a call, say, let's have a catch up, see how it's going. I did this with all my crew. After I had the operation, I was out of action for like the best part of 2 weeks, really, because I was morphined up and not really compos mentis. And give them a call, say, hey, let's catch up. How are you doing? I just wanted to, rebuild any bridges or strengthen bonds at least. It's important to have that because then people are going to want to do more. Okay, so bear that in mind. Hopefully you can hear me okay on Facebook and on YouTube. Just give me a thumbs up if this is getting through okay. I'm just checking connections at the moment because we're doing a new tech setup. And if you have any questions, stick them in the comments. If you're watching this later, stick them in the comments anyway, and I'll still get a notification of your question. Always answer. That's the way to do it. Willie, that's your question answered. Thanks so much for joining. So next one, Ian Tisker. Hello, Richard. I love that you really do answer every question you get every week. Yeah, there you are. And I'm curious of your opinion, as I'm sure you have many friends. Would you hire or bring on friends into your business when you can afford it? Yes, that's it. I would. Absolutely. I think you have to be careful. I've worked with friends before. You have to be intelligent about how you're going to do it. Like with anyone, right? If you work with someone who's not a friend, not an enemy, but what I mean is someone who you don't know so well, you've got to be sure as hell that if it's not working out, you've got some kind of exit. So when you work with an employer, they give you a probation period. Right, you've got 3 months, do X, Y, and Z metrics or KPIs, and if you deliver and we like you, you can stay. Permanent contract. Or if it's a friend, you need to do the same. You just got to get frank with them, though. You just got to have that conversation and say, look, man, I mean, we're good friends, we go way back, however, this is how it's going to have to roll. You know, unless you want to do things differently. In my world, it's a case of saying to all these people, look, it may well be that you're starting in this role. It may be that you go up, you join me as, it may be you're my wingman. It may be someone comes in and supersedes you. It may be that as the person leading this ship, I feel that ultimately it might not work out, and that's that, and it's business. I still love you, and that's how it is, but we have to bear that in mind, because the day you choose friendship first, when it's a business decision, always choose your friends first, right? But when it's a business decision, your business then fails, and that makes you a lousy businessman. Okay, so you've got to put that first. That's how it is. You've got to be cool. You can be good with people. You can be friendly in that and make it a good environment. But ultimately, if that person is taking your ship down, you've got to be the guy that cuts them free. And you need to have that talk first and say, yeah, obviously we are hoping this never happens, and just say, look, this is the thing I have to say to everyone. This is how it is. Because the last thing I want to do is take this ship under because I'm uncomfortable with having that, you know, the kind of dialogue that might need to be had. So make sure you have that in mind. But the answer is absolutely yes, because here's why: you can trust friends. It's as simple as that. And the thing is, it's not when you can afford it. Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is if you believe in someone being honest and loyal and true to you, then you can work with them. The people who are in my inner circle, the people who work in my space, are people because I'm a very good judge of character, but I've spent time with them and I've seen that they're good at what they do, but I've also learned enough way back, like 10, 12, 15 years ago in business, that just because someone's good at what they do, it doesn't mean they're worth hiring. And some people have had to, you know, you have to cut their throat because it's just, they're not right. They're not right socially for your group, even if they are good at what they do. But there are plenty of people out there who are wonderful. They get the vision. They really love it. We respect each other, and I trust them. And as a result, they get to be, you know, they get to be on board. But yeah, friends and family, of course, because it's the same, that you can rely on them. And whenever I'm thinking about, there's quite an interesting project I'm planning for later part of probably next year. And there's so many targets, people I know of who are really good friends who I want in orbit around me, because how much fun would that be? It's like, I have a friend who's great at this. I have a friend who's great at that. Wouldn't it be great to have those two people on board as well? It's perfect. And that's the way to do it, because then you've got a family doing a fun thing together. And, you know, work and leisure, as I said, doesn't have to be separated, because this can be it can always be a fun thing you're doing. As long as you're enjoying it, they're not going to feel like it's hard work. They love that kind of thing. I've done it before, when you pull a friend out of their job and put them into something alongside, and it's like, I just want you to do the thing you do really well. I just want you to focus on that. And they'll be like, listen, brilliant, I get to do this and hang out with my friend as well. Remember that you have to have that line you're willing to draw as well. Otherwise, you're not going to be up to it. Okay. I hope that helps, Ian. Next question is Alex Murab O'Hara. What's the best stock tracking or management strategy against time and several different margins? I'm not entirely sure of the question, but I'll try and answer it. In terms of best stock tracking or management strategies against time, I suppose what we're saying here is how do you run your business or work with stock when time is tight? And with seven margins, I'm not going to be able to suggest an app or piece of software that helps you there. But the strategy of the just-in-time approach is very prevalent these days, and there are people out there who are far more qualified on logistics and things like that and stock than I am probably. But the just-in-time approach suggests that rather than having stock and when you need it you then use it and you kind of just fill it up as you go, it's just in time, so you don't have stock but you get it. You have a system set up or a mechanism set up whereby when you need something you're able to bring it straight through from supplier to customer. And of course drop shipping is a very prevalent way of doing that these days. It's a case of saying I will hold no inventory. When I get an order I have a mechanism whereby I speak to the supplier, I give them the customer's address, and the supplier gets the instructions, sends directly to them to save time, rather than supplier send to me holding stock, or just then sending it on. That's a waste of time, it's an inefficiency. So that's certainly a way around it. But in terms of actual but that's the strategy, I'd say. I think you do need to think to yourself, always reduce down. So look at all the things you're doing, all of the processes. What do you actually need to function? So even when you've got your MVP, minimum viable product, built out over years to be this, you know, huge thing that's all polished and embellished with other bells and whistles, you should always be thinking, is there any fat here that can be trimmed? Is there any parts of the processes that can be probably cut out? Because if it's, you know, if you are building a product and giving it to your customer, that's a nice straight line. But the moment you start putting things in between to test, take data and measure things, it can start getting sticky. It's wise to be careful about how you strategize there. So every so often, just check out your business and say, am I being a bit inefficient with this line here? Am I having that person report to that person only to come around and report to me when I could just be doing it direct? Is that wise? Or in fact, could I do it the other way around? You just need to constantly be looking at it rather than saying, I've got that process in place, I can leave it be now. Always be thinking, is there something I could change here? I was in touch about a year and a half ago with Robin Terrell. He used to be managing director of Amazon UK in 1999. I got in touch with him. He was actually on the board at the time with Tesco. He's since left, but he was the chief chief customer officer at Tesco. So like number 3 supermarket in the world at the moment. And he said to me, if it's not broke, I like the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. He said, if it's not broke, you're not looking hard enough. And his job, he said, was to say, right, we've got a system that works. In 1999, Amazon here in the UK was really starting to move a bit. He was certainly getting traction. People knew who it was. They may be buying CDs and books from it and things like, or probably books from it. But what he was saying was his view was, there will be flaws and problems. There will be inefficiencies. If you can't see them, you're just not looking hard enough. You've got to go find them. And that's a good thing to have. And I've always remembered that. He was a really good guy to let me know about like his routine and things. But I feel that's a good way of analyzing this, is saying to yourself, really, is this as good as it could be? If I think it is, I'm missing something, because you could always improve. That's a good way to look at it. But not at the expense, when it's running really well, not at the expense of other things. Make sure you're just not overdoing it. Don't completely overanalyze, but there's usually something you could tweak or improve. Alex, give me a bit more depth by DM, and I can give you a bit more detail on that. But otherwise, thanks very much. Those of you joining in now, thanks so much for doing so. Just a note that Thursday Q&As on sales won't be running anymore. I'm trying a new project soon, so I'm going to free up that time, and instead the sales Q&A will be part of startup business Q&A. So thumbs up if that makes sense. But also moving forward, any questions in sales, don't save them for Thursday. Stick them into this session instead. Okay, next question is from Akil Silo Simpson. I hope I said that right. Moving beyond borders. How can someone set up a new market, establish new connections and familiarity in a market? So you're talking about borders there, I presume geographical, Akil. Look, your world right now is pretty borderless, unless we're talking about physically moving products from one place to the next. And I know you're not, I believe, but if you are, you know, you've got to understand that all your customers in any part of the world are online. You need to be looking at how you access them there first, because the thing is, that is borderless, with exceptions. Maybe if I worked in, you know, if I was in China or something like that, there are restrictions on things like Facebook. But in short, all the customers I might need in France, if I was going to work there, they're already within reach on my phone. Okay, but I just need to understand how I approach them. And that's a whole other conversation. If you're talking about physically getting on the ground, well, then it's no different to starting here. Aside from the legislator, the whole red tape of licenses and things like that, bottom line is get on the ground, get amongst the people whom you can buy a product, and then show them what you're all about, and bring value, make it an exciting proposition. How is it different to what you're doing where you are? It isn't, apart from the geography is different, maybe the language is, but otherwise I can't see that's any different. But I think you need to go see higher than that. With social, you are beyond borders. And I think I get asked this all the time, like, for people in a different part of the planet, I really need to break this part of the world. It's really difficult for me. It's hilarious because some people don't get it. They're like, I'm based in Europe. My product is going to has so much more traction in the US, but I don't know how to get around the time zone problem. It's simple. You work later. I say it, and there was a guy I worked with in Australia, and he did this. He was like, look, my best market, I think, I'm going to try it, but I believe my best market is in the States. That was killing him at times. So he was like, fine. So I sleep in till midday, but then I work through till 4 in the morning. That's just how it has to be, because that's where the audience is. He's since tweaked it slightly. He seems to be getting great traction back where he is in Australia. But the reality is, you've got to be where the customers are. And if they're up and they're awake, then you should be as well. And that's how it works if you are across the world. But plenty of things can help you. There's scheduling software, Hootsuite and Buffer and so on, so you can be on or appear to be in parts of the world where they're awake and you're fast asleep. Okay, so that's the way around it. And I hope that answers your question, Akil. Next question is from Kenneth Jordan. So I recently posted a comment about waste. And what I was talking about is a definition of waste, and talking about the idea of making sure you make the most of all your time when you're able. I'm serious. I wasn't that debilitated when I'm 4 weeks post-op now. When I was in hospital, the first week I couldn't do anything. I had to just lay down. I was like, I read a book that week. That's all that happened. I didn't really do anything else. And the best thing for me then was rest. Nothing else was good for me. And when I was in that bed, I was thinking a lot to myself about the fact that I'm going to get better, because I'm a very healthy younger person. I'm only 36. I'm 37 on Sunday, by the way, if you care. But I'm only 36. I'm a healthy person. I'm going to be getting better. However, the issue is that, so when you have a different perspective, when you're just getting on with life, you do have time that you waste. And the question, that I think Jordan's asked here is, what classifies as waste? And he says, we're all different. We all have different things that are important to us. And that's absolutely right. That's the thing. You see. It's very difficult to answer the question of what constitutes waste, and indeed what constitutes important things in our world. Because at that moment, I was thinking ahead. I was projecting. I was saying, right, I'm laying here in bed, pressing the morphine button because I was in a huge amount of pain. And I was just like, certain things really don't matter to me now. But you know what? Certain things I do, they just don't matter at all in the future. And I need to change those things. And it gives you some good perspective. But I think also you need to get real with what's important to you and to your business as well. So some things just don't matter, and that will be different. For some people, doing a Facebook Live like this is just a waste of their time. It won't get them anywhere. It's been proven that me doing this is great for my space. It's really helped me a lot, and it's got me interviews and more customers and some other things that I've wanted to get out of it as well. So it has to be a decision you make. So what classifies as waste is something you have to decide on, but you do need to decide on it. It's not something you should just ignore and wait until you react to it and think, actually, maybe that was a bit of a waste of time. You should have a feeling of an agenda. And it's that idea. I mean, it all starts with you saying, where do I really want to be? What's the whole point here? What am I, genuinely, really globally speaking, what is the legacy I'm trying to build? What do I want to be remembered for? And that's where I'm going. And so therefore, is what I'm about to do, or what I'm doing right now, is it of value to go in that direction? And there's a great book, I mentioned it recently to someone, by Ben Hunt Davis. He's an Olympic rower in the UK, and he wrote a book called Does It Make the Boat Go Faster? And the short version is, everything was calculated. Like, shall I go out for drinks with my friends? Shall I have a meal with my family? No, because it doesn't make the boat go faster. I'll go train instead. And for like years, he had this approach. You know, it'd be 5 in the morning. He'd get up and go row, because that's how you get an Olympic gold. And you know, he'd row until he was sick while his family was having Christmas dinner or whatever. Maybe that's an extreme version, but stuff like that. You know, and so he would make these decisions based on what was waste and what was important to him, based on what his end goal was, which was an Olympic gold medal, which he eventually got. So that's what you need to look at. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in. Carolina, nice to see you. Thank you very much for your message. And Willie will thanks for your message as well. And I just wanted to thank everyone who's jumped in on the Monetize You beta program. Later this week, we should be launching it on the website. TheRichardMoore.com is live now, so please jump on there. Also, if you are watching now on YouTube, because I'm on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, do like or subscribe this. And next to subscribe, there's a little bell. You click on that and you'll get notification whenever this comes up. But every Monday we're running this session still. This is 64. I can't believe it, but we're going to keep going, because it's fun for me and you guys keep giving me questions. That's a good combination, right? And next question is Zach Hooson. And by the way, if you have a question, put one in the comments. I can always answer it later if this isn't live when you're watching it. Zach Hooson's asked, before you go into something, how do you prep for it? Oh, sorry, before you go into something new, how do you prep for it? What questions do you ask? Do you do a SWOT analysis? SWOT is when you analyze all the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, is what SWOT stands for, SWOT. So you kind of break down if this is something worth doing. What projects do you work on? How do you calculate it? If all things well, if it's profitable, how do you have the funds to invest in just now? Just the way this has been written, and remember, Zach, that this is my opinion, okay? Just the way this has been written suggests you may be the kind of person that wants process and wants everything to be down. I am very much the person who's got a good sense of what his gut is telling him stuff based on a fairly educated or informed, educated or through experience. I can make fairly good decisions on things. But the thing is, I will usually say, this feels right, it looks good, I trust the person, let's go work on this. I won't go ad nauseum into analysis after analysis after analysis, but that's because of the space I'm in. So the kinds of businesses I tend to work with and the kind of projects I build, they don't need much SWOT analysis, for instance. If I had a hedge fund of $400 million and I was going to invest it in certain things, I would need to do far more in the way of analysis. My friend, for instance, is like a professional M&A guy. So he works with, he does restructuring as well as mergers of businesses. And there's vast analysis that is required for legal reasons, but is that required as well because of the kinds of businesses he takes over that are worth 7 or 8 figures, for instance. So it really depends, is the answer to your question, on what you're actually going to prep for. If it's, should I run a podcast, as I started doing recently, you don't need a SWOT analysis. You just do it. You try it. And if it works out after 2 years, then great, keep going. But you know what you don't do is you go, oh, I'm going to do a lot of analysis. Oh, shall I, shan't I? Because it's just procrastination with something like that. Relatively speaking, it's fairly lowly to run a podcast. Just go. Good example as well. When I got my new website built, first thing I did was I posted to my whole audience, I've got a project, like a web project. Who's good at WordPress? And I got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people commenting and tagging their web developer friends within the first 24 hours. And so I had all the people right there, because that's a short list of people who have a recommendation. I then looked through it and I thought, I know that person. I like that person a lot. Get in touch with those ones first, because I had a connection already. Hey, you're a really good guy. We got on really well. Can you do this? Can you do this? Show me some of your stuff. And I was blown away. Right, you get the job. I didn't even check all the rest. Done. Get on with it. because it wasn't that big a deal. It's a website, man. You know, it's not a massive, massive thing. So it depends on what you're doing. For some of our projects, it's bigger. I recently was asked to be a CEO of a new cryptocurrency business, which was very flattering, of course. I was recently been asked to be an advisor on the board of another business to look after their UK marketing. And this is all good stuff. This kind of thing comes along all the time. Some of those business opportunities I can say no to because I don't want to be in that space. Some of them I can say no or yes to because it's just a simple decision. But some of them it's like, do you know what? I don't know your space enough. Let's speak to some people. Let's do some analysis. But what I don't do is sit down with, you know, Harvard MBA level decision-making things, because I'm not building a 9-figure business that's going to merge with another 9-figure business. Overthinking is one of the biggest problems in startups. Usually the answer to all of your questions is just get on and do it. And if it's working, keep doing it. And if it doesn't, then stop doing it. And so a perfect example is the Thursday the Thursday sales Q&A. I'm going to pause it for a while after this. You know, this week I'm not going to be running on Thursday. I've done it for a year. It's been great. And I've got, you know, so many questions out and great content and great response from people. But I have other things I want to try and squeeze into this. So I'm going to try not doing it and see what happens. And let's see how we go from there. No need for a big analysis. Just doesn't feel right. And I've got other things that are superseding in importance right now. And it may be that we pick it up as we go along in the future. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question, but it depends really on the project is the answer, Zach, as you well can imagine. One more question. So let's finish on this one. Matthias Hahn, what are things you would do to keep great employees? I recently talked to a former co-worker, and now all 3 people from our former sales team work for prospects or clients. Okay. Although our former employer was actually a good one. So what you're saying is you spoke to a former co-worker and 3 people from the previous team have actually left, even though the employer is actually really good. This comes back to that question. Who was it asked earlier? Ian, about hiring friends. This comes back to the same point. So you've got to spend time with your people. Such a shift happened in 2005 when I was managing a sales team. I had this whole bank of people, this huge long desk, and I was sitting at the end, and there were ranks of these people. And I used to just sit up the end. Well, you know, for like 2-3 weeks, and I realized it didn't work. I sat at the front. I was like, go on, get on with the job. When I got down off that stupid pedestal and started going around my desk, so I checked in every morning, checked in with every single person on the desk. How are you doing? What did you get up to last night? Wasn't checking in if they were boozing when they shouldn't. I was just like, how are you doing? And then find out how things are. Find out what kind of mood they're in that day. Get them pumped, get them inspired. Get back to them in an hour, you know, an hour later when they're closing a deal, and help them out with it. Be right next to them on in the trenches. And again, not just, hey, I need this from you right now as your only communication, but a higher level one of connection and relationship building. So a good business relationship always sits on top of a good interpersonal relationship. You don't have to go out for drinks with the person, but you've got to get on with them, because that lubricates the whole thing. And normally you get on fine, but when those times come, because they always do, when you really need them, they're happy to step up because you're a good guy and you've invested in the relationship. You can't be a direct, I'm the boss, you do this kind of guy, and then when you need them to do the extra work, because you know they expect them to jump, because they won't. They just simply won't. So invest as if you're gonna need them, okay? Because then you eventually will, and that will really help. One of the things you do to keep great employees, spend that time with them. I also did their job, so I was never above it or too good for their job. I was a sales manager, they were the sales reps. My job was to coordinate them and make sure we hit target. So do the paperwork, you know, help with the paperwork, and basically be their bitch, organize the team, make sure that we hit target, and keep them inspired. Their job is to get on the phone and close stuff. But by being on the trenches, every so often it's like, you know what? let's just get the day moving. I'm going to jump on the phone, I'll close something, and I'll give the piece of business to someone. So someone makes, 500 quid in commission or something, they get really excited then, and it gets everyone going. Or jump down onto their desk with them when they're on a call, but they're struggling, maybe hijack the call, take it over and close for them so they feel inspired by their boss. Be willing to do the stuff at their level. You can't expect people, especially if they're having a hard time, maybe their job's not going well, you can't just coach them from the sidelines. In business, sometimes it's better to get in there with them. I had a really good guy once who worked with me, but he was just a bit too green. It was like his potential was fantastic, and I could have just nudged him out the door and hoped he would have been fine, but it's better just to go out in the field with him. He set up a sales meeting in Zurich, and I'm like, I'll fly out with you, let's just do it together. And I let him take the lead, but then I jumped in just to fill the gaps and to kind of keep the thing having momentum. And he came out, and I'm like, the boy is a man now. He's just come so far. And, obviously you get a lot, you get so many brownie points because that person's feeling great about the fact that you invested in them. So it's the same thing, man. Do their job. Get down with them. Don't tell them how to do their job if they're an expert. That's different. If you're training someone up, you sit next to them and help them all the way. You are there to give them everything so that they're good. Okay, if they're not, you make them better by being with them. But people who you hire who are great, that's different. You inspire them by giving them scope. What you do, and this is what I do a lot with people who work with me who are good at what they do, maybe in marketing or in ads or in web development or in SEO, whatever. Those people, I say, there's no doubt you know more than me, which is why you're doing it, okay? And I want to give you space. So often they defer to me, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And it's like, you can ask me to make decisions, and I want to be kept in the loop. However, you're running the show. It is your thing because you're in charge. So you call the shots, but you live by your sword and you die by your sword as well. So if you make the wrong decisions, you have to wear them. That's just how it is. And I think that's good because then people feel empowered because they're like, wow, he trusts and believes in my ability. So it's for me to then show him I can do what I'm doing. Be patient with them as well and give them all the resource they need. But the best thing to do is just let them do their thing. Okay, help them if they need it, but if they're the expert, defer to them as the expert. You can question things, but not in a I don't think you know what you're doing kind of state unless you actually feel that that's the case. Okay, I think one other thing worth tacking onto that is you should really train people with no fear that they might leave and set up somewhere else. This is a big hang up people have. It's like, well, if I help people too much, if I train them too much to be, great at sales or marketing, they're just going to leave and set up their own thing, right? That's just the way of the world. The most loyal, best employee ever will possibly go in the future. They might go next week. They might go in 7 years from now, but they will probably because they might want to do their own thing, or they stay with you for life. It depends. It might be that you nudged them out the door because you're not being very inspirational or supportive, but more likely if you're a good guy, they just grow out of it and they just want to move on. And you can give people greater scope to do bigger and bigger things, but sometimes they just want to go because they evolve and they just want to do something new. Simple as that. So you've got to get over that, and you're holding yourself back indirectly if you don't help people to be better at what they do. Okay, especially experts, but also people you're training up. It's like, try and make them better than you, and if they leave, they leave, but at least you're getting the best from them whilst they're there. And if you're worried about people leaving, it's because you're probably not doing what you should to keep that people inspired and motivated to be there. Okay, I really enjoyed today. I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much everyone on Facebook. Thanks everyone on YouTube for joining in as well. And so on Thursday, there will be no Q&A anymore for the sales Q&A. It will now be all in on a Monday. Please visit therichardmoore.com. We've just launched it, so there's loads of work we're doing on it still, but it's a good place to start to learn more about me. There's some more information in there on different things. There's articles, there's many more projects that are going to be dropped down, and the podcast is starting to go live as well. There's a bit of legacy stuff, but we're going to put in the latest podcast. So last week should be there, and this week's one will be on there soon. If you need to check out, have a look at Richard Moore Official as the channel name on YouTube, and you can check me out there as well, where these streams are, as well as other things. But otherwise, thanks so much. Thumbs up if you liked it. If you have any other questions, pop them in here. But if not, have a wonderful week. Go smash it. And thanks so much for listening. It means a lot to me. I'll catch up with you soon. You take care.